Look, looping against backspin is one of the most important skills in table tennis. It's not just about getting the ball over the table, it's about doing it with control, spin, and also turning defense into attack. When I first started learning this shot, I made a ton of mistakes, and I know just how frustrating it can be. But once I fixed these issues, my forehand loop became a weapon. So let me share some of the mistakes that I made and how you can fix them so you don't make them. One of the biggest mistakes I used to make was starting my racket too high, especially when facing heavy backspin. If the ball was coming here, I'd start my racket at the ball and spin up. Everything went straight into the net, straight down. What you need to do is start below the ball. You need to come from below it and spin upward. You need to create the necessary upward motion to counter the spin. It's important to stay low. Engage your core, engage your legs, and stay compact, stay low, and play. It really does help a lot to start your racket below the ball when you're playing your shot. So the next thing I often struggle with was my timing and my contact point. Sometimes I'd take the ball too early, leaving no room for adjustment. Or I'd wait way too long and let the ball drop too much, and that made it really hard to lift the ball over the table. The sweet spot for your timing depends on your skill level and confidence. If I was starting out, I'd probably try and focus on contacting the ball after it's dropping. So it bounces, comes up, and then it reaches its highest point and it starts to drop, and then boom, we hit. This gives you a good mix of quality and margin for error. But then once you feel more confident, you can hit the ball right at the top of the bounce for more power and spin. Just make sure that you avoid hitting the ball too early. Let it come to its highest point. Don't just take it right off the bounce. It's very risky and it reduces your consistency. Similarly, don't wait too long, because the lower the ball drops, the less clearance you have over the net. So yeah, getting the timing right is key in landing your loops reliably and with quality. So another mistake I made was just using my arm for power. I used to rely almost entirely on my arm for generating power and lifting the ball over the table. This is dead wrong. This approach made my forehand shots weak and inconsistent, especially against heavy backspin. Without proper body mechanics, it's impossible to generate enough power and spin properly. The solution was for me to learn how to engage my entire body in my stroke. Now I focus on bending my knees, engaging my core, rotating my torso into the shot, and generating power that way. Transferring my weight from my back leg to my front leg helps a lot with the smoothness of the stroke and the power that I'm producing. This full body approach not only makes the ball more powerful, but it increases your consistency as well, because you're not just relying on one part of your body. If your arm falters, your body will still keep most of the stroke in check. So if you feel like your loops are not strong enough, check if you're using your core and your legs correctly. Another big mistake I used to make was misjudging the amount of backspin on the ball. This is very common. I often underestimate the spin and hit it completely into the net. And other times, as you do, I'd completely overestimate and I'd fly off the end of the table. I'm not going to give you the demonstration because there's a massive 100-inch TV right behind you. I like to think that the amount of spin on the ball can be determined by how quickly your opponent cuts the ball. It's not about if they go underneath the ball or down with the ball. It's about the speed that they contact the ball with. So if you see your opponent do this, there's probably not going to be as much spin on the ball. But if they really cut the ball, there's going to be a lot more spin. And another factor you have to keep in mind is how much spin you put on the serve. Because that spin you produce in your first serve, that's going to keep going in the rally and then slowly fade out. And don't worry, all these details take a little bit of time to get used to. Well, not a little bit, it takes a long time. Reading spin in table tennis is never easy, and then having to play a complicated shot right afterwards, even harder. So yeah, take your time, be patient. So after a while, I realized that my strokes were landing. I was getting my shots on the table, but people were telling me I'm so predictable. Opponents could easily read the spin, speed, placement of the shot that I was going to play, because I did it every bloody time. What really helped me was learning to vary my loops. Now what I like to do is play a few loops with heavy topspin and the next few with a little bit less spin, a bit more flat. I also like to change where I'm placing the ball. You have to change little things every time you play this shot, because if you give a carbon copy of the same shot to your opponent every time, they're going to get ready for it, no matter how much quality is on the ball. Instead of aiming for one place, try aiming for, the wide angles, or this elbow region, the body. Make it harder for your opponent. Adding this variation and keeping your opponent on your toes is going to help you control the rally. They won't know exactly where you're going to hit the ball. There or there. Adding this variety, once you've got the stroke down, is really going to help you a lot. If you enjoyed the video, if you were helped by it, I'd appreciate a subscribe. So yeah, those are the things that I like to keep in mind when I'm looping with the forehand. if you'd like a similar video about the backhand, or just whatever, just comment whatever in the comments. I think it boosts the algorithm. And yeah, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.